Bird, 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 bird! Get him, get him, get him, get him, get him! Yeah! Ron Babe was right. Ron Babe was right.
I'm feeling spry. Hey everybody, you know who it is and you know what show it is because you hit play. And you probably know, you could probably go right along with me and list the sponsors off of this show, right? But what you won't hear on this show, well, besides there's some announcements in this particular intro that you don't want to miss, you're not going to hear mattress commercials or mental health commercials or anything else that's not related to hunting. Every sponsor that's a part of this show that brings you this show every week that makes it possible are tools that are quality that you can use I'm proud of them and I want you to listen to them. Our title sponsor is OnX. What trip is out there? What trip's complete without OnX on your phone or your dashboard, okay? Gunner kennels, food crates, bumpers, bowls. They just keep knocking it out of the park with solid engineered, last a lifetime stuff for your dog. Pike gear, technical clothing like no other for the upland hunter. Boss shot shells, copper-plated bismuth, the best damn shells you can shoot at anything with feathers. And you know what? Everybody knows it. The word's out, but I just want to thank them like I thank you for listening to this show. Garmin, okay? The number one, the biggest name in electronics, transmitters, collars, bark collars, whatever you need for your dog, you can get it in Garmin. And where you go to get that is where? Come on, you know this part. W Supply, owned and operated by dog people. Every one of them is a dog person. You can get. I don't need to say that any more than I need to say the name Walton's, and you're going to say, yeah, I know, Walton's, everything but the meat, the stuffers, the vacuum sealers, the grinders, the slicers, and all the spices. And if you want to turn your kitchen into a wild game kitchen, you go to the Walton's catalog and get everything you need. You know what? These are really nice Christmas present ideas too. Think about it. If you and yours are like Heather and Trent, they hunt together, right? And they cook together and they clean birds together. Boy, I bet you if you're that person who struggles to find a surprise Christmas gift, I bet you'll find it there in the Walton's catalog. If you really want to spoil your son, your daughter, your wife, your husband, whoever you want to spoil, how about looking at the Mossberg lineup? They are coming out with more and more guns. I've got that little 410. I'm telling you what, I will be honest, I couldn't hit the broadside of a clay target with it until I went out with Matt. Matt is my rep from Mossberg, and we took our time, and I had to get used to this broom handle light 410 over under. It is sweet. They've got guns for kids, for women, for everything. Like, not well. You just go look OF Mossberg and Son. They've been around since 1918. No, I take that back. 1919. My dad was born in 1919. Four-wheel campers, they are on the back of my Dodge truck forever. That four-wheel camper, I get more questions. I get more looks. I get people asking me in parking lots, what is it? Where did you get it? You're going to start seeing more and more of them. You're going to start seeing them our side of the Mississippi. It is a game changer when it comes to being a traveling wing shooter. You're always going to find canine athlete and wilderness athlete in my truck. All the time. My dogs get it. I get it. You're always going to find Purina Pro Plan in my truck. Now, that'll actually be in my Gunner food crate, but it'll be in my truck along with the Gunner food bowls. Leinenkugel, you're always going to find that in the garbage can in my truck. And that's kind of a joke. I'm being a little silly, okay? I would only do that when I'm parked, when I'm camping. I use a garbage can. I don't litter. So my empty Leinenkugels, which there are many of, go in my waste can, but technically they're in my truck. The Upland Institute is in my dog's thought process. Now, I know some of you, somebody today could be totally new to this show and wonder, like, what is the Upland Institute? Well, it's a complete trainings course for pointing dogs. Takes you from the day you bring your pup home to the day you want to go compete with it with a finished gun dog, if that's what you choose to do. It's all broken into segments. And the coolest part about our title sponsor, Onyx, is if you're an Onyx Elite member, you get to actually view a lot of the lessons for free. That's right. You get some free dog training lessons from the Upland Institute as an Onyx Elite member. And then they give you a discount that I can't even tell you on the recording. I can't verbally say it. Contractually, it's a nice discount. All you got to do is be an Onyx Elite member. I mean, why not? Why not train your dog? And here's a couple other things. The winner of the Meat Eater Live Tour tickets, the one to show in Detroit, the fellow that wrote me what I would call the best questions to try to stump the Meat Eater crew with. I'm not going to give you his last name just in case somebody, I don't think any of my listeners would go to the will call window and say their name is Dan Blank, or Dan Beep. Okay? But Dan, look for an email. I sent it at 11:51 or 41 this morning, and let me know you got that, and I will send you, or I will put you in touch with how to get your tickets for the Meat Eater Live show, which I will be up there with the crew in Kalamazoo and in Detroit. So there, Behind the Dog, we are loading up every week onto the Hunting Dog Podcast YouTube channel. Every week we're loading up another segment of Behind the Dog with Nancy Beth Clemens and Legacy Kennels. And then we're going to be adding in what we did with Camille Rice and the Weimaraners. And then we're going to be adding in Griffins. And then we're going to be adding in Poodle Pointers. I need you to go to my YouTube channel, The Hunting Dog Podcast. You can watch HMF. You know what that stands for? Hunting. Yeah. That's just some kind of fun stuff we did in North Dakota a year ago. There's just a ton of stuff to watch. But if you are somebody who didn't want to buy the Behind the Dog film and you just want to watch it in segments, it's there now. We're not going to do that with new episodes, but with old episodes, they're going to go up to that YouTube channel. And we would love it if you'd subscribe and hit and send a comment, because that's what you're supposed to say when you have a YouTube channel. Subscribe here, and you point to both of them. You know what I'm talking about. And Patreon patrons. Now, forever and a day, well, that's not true. Not ever and a day. But for the last 7 years, I've had a Patreon account. And I cannot thank my patrons enough who give a few dollars to show the support of the show that they like. Now, when I started doing that, there was nobody else doing Patreon. Now, everybody's got Patreon, and I get it. But I'm trying to always give you more. And I put in a second tier last year called HDP Hunting Dog Talk, okay? We did a couple episodes with Tyler. We did a little more video content. But my daughter had a great idea. So anybody who's in the HDP Talk tier, okay, of our Patreon account, that's Patreon, Patreon, Hunting Dog Podcast. If you're in the second tier instead of the first tier, it's called Hunting Dog Talk. I'm releasing audio file. I'm basically releasing solo podcast running down my history of dogs from the first shitty dog I got to the first good dog I got. And they got that first episode, I think it was Friday morning. Friday or Thursday, I can't remember. And that's going to be content, and there's going to be pictures that accompany it. That way, there's a value added. If you like this show and you like the history of dogs and basically like everything I like, right? Then you want to go to Patreon, become a Patreon member, and go to the HDP Talk, Hunting Dog Talk. And you're going to get to hear some real unfiltered stories about how I got some of the dogs, how I took moonlighting jobs to get some of the dogs, how some of them just sucked, and other ones were great. And it starts back in the in the 90s. No, in the 80s. Yeah. It starts all the way back in the 80s. That first episode's out. So, and that gets sent to you for you to listen to and you only. I don't know. I think I got everything covered. Did I? I got Upland Institute, Leinenkugels, Purina Pro Plan, K9 Athlete, Four Wheel Campers, Mossberg, Walton's, W Supply, Garmin, Boss Shot Shells, Pike Gear, Gunner Kennels, and of course, Onyx, our title sponsor. I don't. That wasn't so bad. I kept that to 10 minutes. You can do that, and you don't have to have a mid-roll commercial. And I'm not going to put in commercials about mattresses or mental health. Okay, bird hunters don't need mental health. They just need Onyx and some good gear, and that's all they need. Why would I do that? I wouldn't do that to you. Once you get the episode, you get to listen through it. It's not going to get interrupted. I've been doing that forever, and I plan on doing it for another forever. Does that make any sense? Anyway, hope you all had a good season. I hope you got more season ahead of you. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Looking forward to a good Christmas. Don't forget, all these sponsors have something that you could stuff in the stocking. Obviously, probably not the four-wheel camper. You need a very, very large stocking. But other than that, I bet you could put any of those things into a stocking, and your partner will love you. I love you guys. I love you girls. I love you girls more, as always. Oh, and hey, Trent, Heather, hope you're having a good drive home through Illinois right now. I predict that you're on the 294 Turnpike, and it's slushy, and it's icy, and there's salt stains on the window, and you just had a great pheasant hunt over in Minnesota. So, hey, drive safe, guys.
Before I could even get home that week, a couple of days later, I got a call from my friend that's in our Sunday school class.
Yeah.
Oh, man, you got over your stage fright. That was a wonderful interview we saw. I hadn't even seen it. Yeah, you know. Man, that was great.
Well, I'll tell you what I tell everybody when they wonder, like, I want to know when you hit the record button. I tell everybody.
No one to hit the record button.
Right. But here's what it works like. If you've been on a plane, which I know you have because you didn't walk here from Alaska, but you did drive here, right?
I'm driving back.
You're driving back, okay.
This will be my 27th trip back.
Jesus. So I tell everybody, if you're on a plane, and you get on a plane, like, oh, please, whoever's next to me, I just want to close my eyes, right? But you happen to look over, and he's reading the same hunting magazine that you subscribe to, and you're like, oh, you got a dog? And he starts going, oh, yeah, I got a German Shepherd.
I wish I could get people next to me like that.
Well, I know, but that's what it's like. I tell people, like, you just, all of a sudden, you're like, a 2-hour conversation goes on a plane.
Right. When you got idiosyncrasies, yes.
Right. Like, you're from the same town I live in. I can't believe you're from Twin Lake, Michigan.
Right.
You're a friend of mine. Yeah. And then all of a sudden we start talking about things like $100 Brittany that you got from your...
He told you that.
I did a little research.
Because Tom was so cheap. He didn't want to spend very much. Of course, it was back in the day when $100 was worth a lot more.
Yeah, you could get a good dog for $200.
It was the run of the litter, and she ended up being probably, well, I can't put her up against the lab.
Right.
But no question, the best water dog I've ever seen for a Brittany.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now I've heard diving stories of this. Now I've seen Instagrams of dogs diving like in a pool for for a brick,
and
right?
you could teach that.
And you could teach that. And I've seen a couple of my dogs go
a little bit
under because they could feel that duck like when they're standing in that ankle deep water. And I've seen them put their head under and come up with a duck. But according to Randy, your Brittany would do some diving.
Well, she was in clear water.
Right.
And so she could see. That's a big part.
Oh, sure.
Big part of it. But yeah, it was one of those deals. I could hear these ducks gobbling a mile plus away.
Yeah.
It was super calm, and you could just hear them. And so I spent a while getting up to those birds. Started getting close, and I'm looking using my binoculars, and all you could see was heads. You couldn't see the water.
Just duck heads.
Solid mallard heads. This is during the migration.
Yeah.
And so I started getting on the G.I. Joe crawl thing because it's not a lot of cover. And my Brittany behind me, she sees me crawling. She's down on her I never taught her this. Taught on her tummy crawling just like me. And I'm trying to keep her back because she wants to get up next to me.
Sure.
Get back.
Right.
And I took the position of getting really close because there was enough tufted grass in between us.
Right.
We got close and put the first foot across the heads and bum, and it's just birds falling. We spent probably 30, 40 minutes getting crips.
Right.
Because and this is where she would see she'd get close to the bird, he'd go down, she'd go down.
Right.
And then the next time they both came up, she was closer. And then she was closer.
Yeah.
And then the next time she went down, she was down long enough to I'm going,
Uh-oh.
is something wrong?
She got on a snag.
She's down for half a minute.
Oh, I would be scared.
And I was getting a little concerned because this was deep water. This was 15, 20 foot. But it was open, it's just a freshwater lead.
Yeah.
And she comes up with a bird in her mouth. And she did that several times. But most of the time, it was not an issue because most of the hunting over there is Hershey's chocolate water.
Right.
You can't see.
Right. The only time it would go back to like my dogs, they could almost feel the duck. Or, But when he told me you had a diving Brittany, I was like, okay, this might be a great podcast, or it might just be a bunch of stories.
That was Shannon.
Shannon, that was that dog.
Dale Hunter named my dog Shannon. I still remember how he did that.
So people don't realize who I'm already talking to. I should have introduced you, but who cares? Pat Johnson is a friend of mine. And Randy, I'm going to adjust this mic again. I'm going to hold this mic right up here. Randy is a friend of mine from Twin Lake, Michigan, and we've known each other, off and on, I guess since I moved to Twin Lake, because we met out on a gas pipeline where he was walking a dog and I was walking a dog. And we've always stayed in touch, and we've had some connections through other friends and everything. And he told me the other day that you were coming in from Alaska, and that you got to come over here. You got to meet Pat, Ron. You got to meet Pat. The man is nothing but a book of stories.
Lots of stories.
And as you said, we get shamed by a guy with one leg about that we don't walk enough. So So we have a mutual friend enemy, I guess, or no, a friendly frenemy. Who what would you call an enemy that's friendly? I don't know.
It's not really an enemy.
Well, you know what I mean. No, but he's. I know what you mean. When you meet Randy, you're kind of like, are you just trying to show me up?
He really does well for being a one-legged gimp. Yeah.
Well, we call him the wandering amputee on Instagram,
Okay.
But if you know him close enough, you can call him a one-legged gimp. And I'm sure when Randy listens to this on Sunday or Monday,
he goes through some pretty tough stuff with that
prosthetic.
Prosthetic, yeah, he does.
The first time he came in here to do a podcast, he sat on that chair where you're sitting, and he took his artificial leg and he turned it 180 degrees. And then he turned the foot 90 degrees, and then he set his arm up on it like an armrest.
And then he said, now, can you do that?
Right. So, there's an advantage. But you have, I guess, a long history in Alaska, and you and I have never met. But Randy said you were a consummate duck hunter. If you were going to identify as one thing.
Well, probably mostly lately because it's in close proximity.
Right.
And before I was married, I went to South Dakota twice a year, every year.
All the way from Alaska.
Uh-huh.
Because I'm doing the math. You left when you were 21 and you're my age. Yeah. So you've been in Alaska 40-some years. 42 years. Yeah. And you would come back to South Dakota to go bird hunting.
We usually come back to Michigan first, then drive out to South Dakota.
Nice.
But dogs always started with labs finally, or actually started with labs when I'm upland hunting. I had Brittany's, and I only hunted ducks with those when I first started.
And which it flies in the face of buying a Brittany.
You should see what Haymarsh guy said. I can't remember his first name. That owns the Haymarsh.
Or the Mike or the proprietor. I don't know the proprietor's name.
He's got the wife that always hunts.
Oh, boy, we're going to look pretty bad here when we can't come up with that name.
But
that's okay.
He's young. Anyways, the first thing he says to me is, you have a Brittany that that retrieves. And I'm going, don't they all? Evidently not. No, I know how to train. Is retrieving, and she's been retrieving since she was a pup. That's why my honey that's out in the truck right now is a pretty good retriever. She's not as die-in-the-wool as labs are, but she's pretty good.
Now, you just came back to Michigan to get a trailer, a truck,
pick up a truck, pick up a trailer that was built the way I wanted it,
and a new dog. Or
well,
not a new dog, another dog.
I haven't got a word yet whether or not I'm getting him.
Oh.
Just know that he's kind of out there in limbo from a divorce, I guess.
Oh, okay. Well, when are we going to find out about this new dog?
I was supposed to find out a day or two ago, but I don't know what's happening.
Maybe there's an injunction in the lawsuit.
Something about the new place he had to move to or something, that they don't want dogs or something. I don't know.
But let's go back to as they say, let's go back to the beginning. There's a pretty in my years of being in Twin Lake, which is under 40 years. So you got out of here before I got here. Not too much sooner though. I was probably recreating up here.
Where'd you come from?
Chicago.
Oh,
of all
another
places.
Chicagoan. Lots of Chicagoans.
That's one thing. If you meet anybody in Twin Lake, Michigan, you go back one generation, someone's from Chicago.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's a given.
Yeah.
But I was probably recreating here while you were still living here. If you left when you were 21, because we're about the same age.
This is back when I was trapping 2-3 or more thousand muskrats a fall, 250 mink, coon. Tried to get good at fox, just couldn't.
Was there a lot of fox around though?
There was a fair amount of them around, but I could get maybe 8 to 15 of them. I put so much work into it and only could catch that many. It was kind of disappointing.
There's no return on investment there.
Not really, even though they were high value then. No, muskrats is where the money was at.
I mean, that's because of quantity.
Yeah, well, and they bring in decent money too.
Right.
We all hated to see $5 rats because everybody and his dog came out of the woodwork.
You'd rather have $3 rats and you have them all to yourself?
It's not that. No, it's not that. We can handle the competition because most of them are just week-long trappers and they quit.
Right.
Well, the real guys, they stay in the whole time, whole season, and it's a small group of guys that all know each other.
Right.
No, it's the thieves that show up with $5 and $6 muskrats. People that never or hardly ever do it. If they're going to put a few traps out, they're going to make sure they steal as many traps and rats as they can as they exit.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Oh, it's a thing.
I mean, because trapping is not glamorous, right? You're up early, you're out late, you're slogging around in hip waders or chest waders.
I'd lose 15 pounds. When I was 180 pounds, I'd lose 15 pounds the first 3 days.
Of traps?
Yeah.
Just
of opener.
You just were
You're going
3 days
nonstop.
straight.
Yeah.
Not eating, not sleeping. You're like a buck in rut.
It's how much area you can get. So
Right.
There's no set spots that you can only trap here in the marsh.
I did, believe it or not, in Chicago, city limits, I got into trapping when I was about 14 years old with a friend of mine.
Trapping rats?
No, we trapped squirrels.
No.
All right, we had 2 cemeteries that kind of went around 2 sides of our neighborhood. We were on the very south side of the city limits, and then after that it was suburbs. And my friend Ricky sent in for a trap through a herder's catalog. You remember herder's catalogs,
baby,
right?
yeah.
That was the best catalog in the world. And I imagine in the 60s you could buy your rifles right from herders, if I'm not mistaken. But he got a couple of like #1 long string traps.
Yeah, Victor's.
And him and I were already dabbling with some taxidermy. We were climbing up in billboards. We were strange kids for city kids, okay? We were climbing up in billboards, taking pigeons and going home and practicing taxidermy on them. So he wanted to take it to another level, and he got a couple traps. And he came up with the idea of using corn and Elmer's glue. Elmer's glue dries clear, so when they went to go get the kernels that were, stuck on the traps, he would get a squirrel, occasionally a possum by the leg that came by, and we would just practice skinning and tanning. I mean, we were kind of weird kids for being city boys.
How old are you?
At that time, 13, 14.
How old are you now?
66.
Okay, that was perfectly normal for that.
Oh
time.
yeah, nobody
For that time.
nobody in the neighborhood thought it was weird that we were walking down the street
Yeah.
with a couple traps and a couple dead squirrels. Nobody thought that was weird at all. But as far as the rest of our schoolmates, like,
Hey, my brother Don trained a pet crow. He stole a crow out of a crow's nest.
we did too.
and trained a pet crow to say his name. His name was Frank, and he'd always say, "Hi, Frank," hi, because everybody's always saying, "Hi, Frank," and he'd mimic it back, you know.
I don't know what spurred it. I think it was mostly just some books we saw in the library because we were all like really bad students, but we didn't mind going to the library because you could look at books and magazines and kind of you got a good grade in the library. And we went up in a tree in the cemetery and we watched a crow nest. We'd climb up. The parents would buzz us when they were in eggs. When they hatched out, we took 3 crows for me, Ricky, and his brother Mikey. Their 2 died, mine lived. And I was age appropriately shooting sparrows in the backyard, and I dropped a lead pellet out of my Crossman 760, and that crow picked it up and took it like a pellet and choked to death in front of me. She went, and I was mortified. I never got another crow, but it's against the law to own them now. The statute of limitations.
That's a lot of breed.
And so I want to talk about something else now that we're on. You have what could be referred to as a domicile eagle that lives near you.
Domicile
A,
eagle.
a bald eagle that kind of knows you.
A bald eagle? What in the world is that?
That's what Randy told me. He says, ask him about his eagle. You have an eagle that lives near you that kind of is habituated to getting a free meal.
He needs a little more context. In his
Okay.
stuff.
All right. Let's hear that.
This is in Prince William Sound. The eagles are everywhere, you know.
Right.
Prince William
yeah.
Sound. And you can get him to make a really good flyover just by offering him a fish, like a small rockfish or something. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
And he just is kind of like, he knows if he hangs out and he sees you.
Well, their nests are right there. They're hanging out there all the time.
So they don't come down and chat with you, but you can get him. Can you get him to come in like a pelican almost in Florida, like where they almost
Really, you can really see a good pickup of a fish.
So we're not saying you have a pet eagle. That's not what we're saying. You have an eagle that lives near you that is opportunistic.
Well, they're all opportunistic. but, yeah.
I've been to. Luckily, I've been to Alaska.
You should see how many eagles are in the dumps.
Oh, it's got to be.
Oh, sure.
I've been to Ketchikan a lot of times, and there's one on every
Yeah.
wharf post or every post of every
Hey,
dock.
down in Petersburg, I don't know if you know that little town. It's kind of like just north of Ketchikan. Anyways, back in the day, I'm guessing it was probably the 40s or 50s. There's historical accounts where they had their first, what they call tourists, come in.
Okay.
And the mayor is taking them around, showing them the sights. Oh, he says, hey, do you want to see a black bear? Oh, sure, we'll see it. Goes to the cliff where everybody throws their garbage off the cliff. That's what they did back then.
Right.
And right there, and right there's one in the garbage, in the town. He says, you want to see one up close? He goes, oh, they go, yeah, sure. He grabs his rifle out of his cab, and boom, shoots one, goes down there and they pictures of him, with the pads out and everything. and he says, yeah, you want to see one of those bald eagles up close? Yeah, boom, 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 shoots it. You got 2 bits if you showed eagle talons to the Fish and Game, because there was a bounty on them.
Really?
Because they would kill the chickens, come in and kill the chickens. So the towns.
There was an actual bounty. Mm-hmm. Who would believe that?
Yeah.
I don't know. It sounds, but this is a long time ago.
Yep.
So this Brittany you got, your brother bought the Brittany, basically he bought the run because he was cheap. How did you end up with the Brittany? Because did he just think it was a good idea for a minute?
I had a Brittany that was young.
Okay.
She got killed on the highway. And I was without a dog.
Gotcha. And that's no
And
place
my birthday was coming up.
And that's no place to be. A birthday, no dog,
That's right.
and a dog. So for $100, you got Shannon.
That was Shannon. Now,
That
the
was
Brittany
Shannon.
I have now, it's Honey.
Is Honey.
That was a while back.
That was a long while back.
Yeah.
And then you had Labs. Did you have Labs living up in Alaska too then?
Yeah. I had Angel, was the first one up there. She was, wow, she was smart. I could stop her on a whistle at 100 yards, and she'd stop so fast, her hind end would go swinging around further than what she wanted to face me. And okay, which direction? And I could give her an over or back, and
So you took her through formal yard
Oh,
training to
yeah.
do all that.
Yep.
Because that's the only way to get that out of a dog.
Yeah.
And then I actually have a note because Randy and I talked this morning. And then she had a puppy that you had. Was it?
I had about 9 out of her, and a couple of my friends got one of those pups. Steve in North Dakota, which I'm going to probably see in the next week or so. He's retired up there in North Dakota with his wife and Doreen, and I think I started them on dogdom because he didn't, I don't think, had a dog before he got Abby. And after Abby, they just start acquiring more and more labs.
And they live in North Dakota.
They're living in North Dakota where they retired. They're from here.
Oh, okay.
And they live there. And I mean, after a couple of years of that, I call him. He had 6 in the house. He sounded like a herd of cattle when they were coming. And now this is what Doreen does. She runs the whole United States for NARA trials.
Really?
Yeah. And she's got some pretty good wins with her.
And
She's a veterinarian.
I need to know this person because I go to North Dakota every year.
To hunt?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Pheasants?
Well, we went out early for sharptails and huns.
Okay.
But I have been there in October for pheasants, sharptails, huns, cranes, you name it, ducks. Everything's open mid-October. North Dakota is, it's our best version of Alaska.
You need to give me some contacts then.
Okay.
Because I have very few. I had great contacts in South Dakota back before 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. But everybody's died, or they've sold their farm, or I was too good, and I showed them how to manage their farm.
And then
That's the worst one.
And then they didn't need you anymore.
Exactly. And now there's no. Well, he hasn't seen me in 20 years.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah.
But I think you're one of them guys that would knock on a door and say, "Hey, haven't seen you in 20 years."
He's all booked up.
Oh.
Because I've showed him how to strip corn and strip his Milo and for hunters.
Right, right.
And hey, good for him. He's making at least his tax money. I think his taxes on 5,000 acres of farmland is a lot.
Yeah, that's not going to pay for the combine payment, but paying the tax, taking the edge off the tax isn't a bad deal. So you got them started with labs, back from one of your labs.
Yeah, he got Abby and then progressed from there. And I don't know if you know Bruce Wagonmaker, lives right over here. That's Randy's friend. Or my friend is Randy's friend.
I know we had a wagon maker lived on his street for a little while.
Okay.
I think it was his brother.
Okay.
With the greenhouse?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bruce was the owner of the greenhouse.
Okay.
Brian was the.
Brian lived here.
Brian was the brother.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
No, in fact, I worked for Bruce. One of my first jobs in the greenhouse
in Twin Lake.
Way back, yeah, yeah. Anyways, no, the South Dakotas. Yeah, if you don't keep up on it, you lose your contacts, and
we had a really good contact for quite a few years, and then unfortunately that farmer died in his silo, and his son didn't think it was worth kind of keeping the property groomed for hunters, and his dad did a really nice job, and we had a farmhouse to stay in. It was those stories are all 20-year-olds, 30-year-old stories.
Hey, me and my brother
unfortunately.
Tom went out there for turkeys one year. We were going every year for pheasants. So our Dwayne, our owner of the farm.
Right.
Oh yeah, man, you can get a turkey anywhere here. I'd shot a turkey off of a farmer's farm. Didn't even need a permit. I shot one.
Probably under a small game tag at the time.
I think it was.
Might have been.
And I mean, the whole flock just came underneath the roosting tree. I just shot the biggest one that I saw, and it was really dim out.
Yeah.
Shot the biggest one, and ended up being a 24-pound.
Butterball, right
Yeah.
from Tyson.
And
was it white?
No, no. And the farmer was upset with me. You know what he was upset with?
What?
How come you only shot one?
Oh, he didn't want them turkeys around there.
Right, because they scratch up all and kill all the corn. And
Right.
take the corn stalks down like coon do.
Yeah.
But no, I was going to tell you the story of me and Tom getting out there. He had to get these permits. We had to wait 2 or 3 years to get out of state permits.
Right.
To hunt spring turkey there. And the night we get there, Dwayne puts us up in one of his trailers for pheasant farmers because there's no pheasant hunting in the spring, you know.
Right.
And we couldn't open the door on the trailer in the morning.
You were stuck inside the trailer?
4 feet of snow in one night.
Oh, balls. So, and it all drifted up against the door of the trailer.
Oh no drift.
It was
That's
just
just straight.
It was
That's
just
on the level. There wasn't any wind to speak of. No, it blew transformers all over the place. A lot of power was out everywhere.
Oh, God.
And we're going to Dwayne. Gee, what do we do? Well, I got this one guy. There's turkeys that virtually live in his backyard. You could go see if you could get at those. And we go over there, and the snow is literally past your belt.
Yeah.
You can't even walk 10 feet off where your truck is at. And we could see the birds. We call, they're not going anywhere.
Right. They're stupid, but not that stupid.
Well, hey, buddy, it's still winter.
Right.
You're calling spring. Come on. So we drove all the way home.
Oh, there and back.
Back to Michigan, yeah.
So it sounds like you come back to Michigan like basically every year.
Hey, I got a standing.
Is that to get away
I got
from?
a standing order with my brother Tom.
Okay.
He's a walleye aficionado. He could be guiding.
Yeah.
Working on a brand new boat, getting everything set up right as we speak. And I said, if the big walleyes are there and the big perch are hitting at the same time, you call me and I will be there in 48 hours. And that's what happened this last August. And I flew in and he got me and we got big perch and we got big walleyes.
48 hours.
Yep.
So that goes to you're self-employed up in Alaska with a career that is not unheard of, but it's not common, right?
You know, my son used to go on my trips, 14 years old. He says, Dad, how come we don't see anybody else doing this? This is selling seafood alongside the road. You know?
Right. Let's make sure they understood it. Selling seafood alongside the road, which my thought would be, I see that in Florida when they sell peanuts, boiled peanuts alongside of the road.
Sure. I have already established spots that I set up, pay the owner, to set up. A lot of times it's at places have coffee shacks and stuff like that.
Sure.
And I Facebook everybody on the word shrimp guys for them to know when we're coming, where we'll be, and what we'll have. So it's kind of all works together that way. But my son says, how come we don't see anybody else doing this? I go, well, there's 2 reasons. One reason is nobody wants to work this hard for a living, and nobody wants to work this hard for a living. You'll see a few people just after shrimp season or something will set up a few days worth, of trying to sell some of their shrimp. But I don't think there's anybody that does it, year round.
And now that's spot prong shrimp, right?
It's shrimp, scallops, crab, black cod, halibut.
Okay. Do you fish for a lot of it, or do you?
If I fish for a lot of it, like I tell everybody else, because that was the first.
You wouldn't have time to sell it.
Exactly.
You wouldn't have time to sell it.
You wouldn't see me here if I fished for all of it. I do fish some of my halibut, and I fished it this year, and I had to just walk aboard another guy's boat to do it, and let him do it.
Right.
Because I just didn't have the time.
Right.
And then the weather was getting bad, and he had a bigger boat. But I catch probably 50% of my shrimp is all. And I do the entire season. I do 7 to 8 weeks straight.
Wow.
On the boat. And I still can't catch enough from what I sell, so I still have to buy it from other.
Right. I actually have some experience. The cabin I go to, that's another one of our Twin Lake connections. Danny, Steve, and Matt, they're all younger people, younger than us. They all came from Twin Lake. And they have a cabin in southeast Alaska. And it's about a 20-minute float plane from Ketchikan to their cabin. And I've been up there. I helped them build a cabin up there. So, but the way we're catching them is, lying over the side of a 17-foot Lund skiff and drawing them up from, 80, 90, 100.
Shrimp or crab?
Both. But the shrimp are deeper and the crab are
How are
shallow.
you catching the shrimp?
In a crab trap or a shrimp pot.
Shrimp pot.
Shrimp pot.
But are you doing it with a fishing rod?
No, we're doing it with dropping the shrimp, putting a buoy on the line and dropping it and then coming back the next day.
That's the way we fish.
Right.
Yeah.
But I know how hard it is to do like 6 of those by hand. You got to have this mechanized.
we don't do it by hand.
Okay, because I almost threw my back out the first time.
I did that when I was 24.
Okay, and that's
400 feet of water.
And
won't do that again.
And you come up with sometimes almost nothing in the trap, or sometimes a lot.
That too.
But I've had that was the best shrimp I've ever
We use
had.
hydraulics.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how big are the traps? Like, are they?
By law, no bigger than 39 inches.
Oh, that is so that'd be the same size trap basically that we're throwing over the side of a skiff.
Probably.
But you're pulling it up with a.
Right.
You get a lot of starfish and octopus on there and all that, or octopus
Get a
on
fair
there.
amount of octopus.
That's good too.
Yeah. I hated octopus until my friend showed me how to cook it.
And smoke it too?
No,
Or just
we
cook it.
never smoked it. But he skins it, takes the end of a pint salmon jar and smashes it so it flattens it out a little bit.
Yeah.
And just fries it, and that's it.
It's good.
Yeah, it is good that way. Well, I tell you.
I wouldn't want to touch one. I've never touched one. Even when I see them come up, I let somebody. Even though we got gloves on because the water's cold, I can't touch them. I got a phobia.
I have to show you this deckhand. That's my honey.
Oh,
That's
there's
on the boat tripping, by the way.
Oh, nice.
She did it all 7 weeks.
That's a good-looking Brittany. I hate to,
Yes, she
pump
is.
sunshine up your skirt, but
She is. But I'm going to show you a great deckhand. The first time we got her, Travis, my friend, says, "Oh no, you take Lizzie," because she's never done it before. She's 15 years old. She's a girl.
Yeah.
Well, how good is she going to be? And she ended up being one of the best deckhands around.
oh, and she's just holding that octopus
yeah.
like she likes it.
Oh yeah. She loves this.
That would be like showing me a vampire in a Halloween house.
She loves this. And,
Jesus.
And so I told Lizzie, don't tell Travis how good you are, or what I said, how good you are. And why is that? Because he will take you from me.
Right, you're going to lose that good.
2 days
you're gonna
later,
lose that
he
good
already
deckhand.
found out, and yeah, I rarely get her unless he's not using her.
So most of the time, hang on a minute. I'm going to hit pause here. Something is going on with my microphone.
My daughter's inception of getting honey.
Okay.
We're on our way to Haymarsh.
Right.
And this is the place in the middle of the state that's,
Right.
that put and take pheasant hunting. And she doesn't want to go. She's 15 and acting like a snot nose, like a 15-year-old girl can act.
How many years ago was this?
Oh, this is 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
And I said, "No, you're going. No, put me out right now. Put me out alongside the road. And I'll walk back to Grandma's." And I go, "Oh, yeah, that ain't happening." So we go to Haymarsh, hour long. Sure. What is it?
Diet Coke.
Sure. Yeah. We get there, and I didn't bring a gun for her because she's acting like a snot nose. And but Shania's there, my eldest daughter.
Okay.
She's got a gun, and we practice in their beautiful little pavilion that they've got now. It was brand new then, for go ahead and practice a few skeets, and somehow I forget who, if it was Randy or the owner, talks Rachel into shooting the last few clays, and she breaks.
Is she still standing there kind of pouting,
Yeah,
basically?
and she breaks 23 out of 25.
Ooh.
Nobody in that group had done that good that morning.
No.
So now she's feeling a little better about herself.
Right.
So she says, "Well, maybe I'll walk out there with you guys, to watch." She walks out with us, and my brother, or my eldest daughter, Shania, her fingers get really cold, especially in November, and she forgot her gloves.
Okay.
So against that metal on the gun, and so she says to Rachel, "Hey, hold my gun for a few minutes while I warm up my hands." And while she was holding her gun, that rooster went off. And she got it first shot, and that's her first rooster she ever shot.
She's got a smile on her face there.
And
Did this change the course of history?
the story's not done.
Okay, all right. I'm excited. I'm excited because I got 3 daughters, so I'm excited.
Because what happened is Randy's dogs were old dogs then, and they got tired quick. And so within an hour and a half or so, and so we ended up, the manager or the owner of Haymarsh brought his Rusty out.
Okay.
It was a Brittany, and super fast, and lightning around that grass. And Rachel goes, "That's the kind of dog I want." I go, "Okay, if you commit to train with me and take care of this dog, I will find a good breeder, and we will get a high quality Brittany." And she says, "Yeah. She's 17, I think, 16 or 17."
Yeah.
And so it took me about 7 months to find this breeder up in Traverse City, and we got Honey through Rachel picking Honey out of the litter box through FaceTime because we're up there.
Which didn't happen when you got your first Brittany.
No,
There was no FaceTime.
no, there was no FaceTime.
There was no computers.
No.
Well,
I wish we would have been able to pick one out before they docked her tails, because I would have liked to have had her tails.
no.
The whole tail.
No.
Yes.
No.
I don't care
We're
about-
going to have to end this podcast immediately.
I don't care about combing out burrs in the tail.
Okay.
It makes them just look better, I think. Anyways,
That's from hanging around with Randy and his setters.
we get the dog, and I fly her up. Randy is the one that brought her to the Detroit terminal.
Okay.
And flew her up, and Rachel doesn't, of course, want to be as studious as I am at taking care of a dog. She helped train a little bit, but now she's got college. Not going to be able to take a dog to college, Dad. I go, well, if this dog is going to me, you ain't going to get her back.
Right.
Oh, that's okay. You need a dog anyways, because everybody's gone from the house. So that's how I got Honey. Probably the most social dog I've ever had. She just loves everybody. If there's an assailant that comes into the house, the story will read the assailant was killed by licking to death.
Right. Or the assailant was sexually assaulted by the Brittany by giving it a wet willy in the ear for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, my barometer for a dog, everyone's like, how are your dogs now? I'm like, I got mediocre dogs. But what I've got is 4 dogs that love me. I got to have that these days. That effect, like, now if we brought Honey in, these guys would erupt for 5 minutes and we wouldn't hear anything over the barking. But that is my barometer. I've got to have a dog that likes people and likes, like, I don't want to have to worry about the dog that could nip somebody or.
She goes on every one of my sales trips. She goes everywhere with me. Pretty much that allows dogs.
Right, like she rides shotgun with you basically her whole
Oh,
life.
you should have seen what happened when I went on the halibut boat. The guy was, you have to be aboard the boat to catch your quota. There's a halibut quota.
Yeah.
And I go, I didn't know if I was going to make it. It took a while to find someone that would watch Honey. You left the dog? And it's a British Spaniel? Oh, I'll hold the boat. You drive back and go get it.
Go home and
Because you're
get your
such a
dog.
dog guy.
Right.
And we couldn't do that. I was 2 hours away from home, and we had to make a tide. And
Right.
But I'll tell you a funny story about this one. We traveled 6.5 to 7 hours to get to this spot that's out of the north wind, but has a decent amount of halibut.
On the water.
Yeah, crossing Cook Inlet, at the mouth of Cook Inlet, going toward Kodiak, and they changed the weather forecast. Now it's supposed to be 40 to 50 out of the bad direction, and it's 40 to 50 knots,
Right.
and out of the bad direction, and we're gonna get stuck for 5 days.
Oh my God.
So he turns around. We were 30 minutes from getting to our spot to throw gear,
Right.
and we have to turn around and go all the way back to Homer. And that was the first trip. And he says, well, I feel bad that we didn't get out and get fish for you. I mean, he took all the loss of the fuel and everything.
Right.
And he says, I know another spot that's closer. We can fish it in about 3 days. The weather's supposed to be good for that spot in 3 days. And that's when we came back and I brought Honey on that trip.
Because I'd be afraid to take a dog on a trip like that. You know.
She did get seasick.
Did she?
Yeah, she did.
So that's a whole nother, like, I get scared when we go fishing. So we fly in by float plane, and we basically have, or they basically have 3 Lund 17-foot skiffs. And all we do is go up the fjords and a little bit out by the bay, it's deep water, but it's not the ocean. If I see, if it's 3-foot waves, I'm done. I'm like, I am,
Well, in a Lund, yeah.
well, but these guys would stay out there all day, because they watch the weather. It's not going to get worse. They just know it's going to get painful.
Yeah.
And I'll stay back and pound nails or work on the outhouse, or you can't get me. It's got to be flat. If it was Michigan, I'd want an east wind.
Are you that way when hunting birds?
Wasn't. I'm getting that way now.
So if it's raining or sleeting, you're done.
Oh God, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. There's another day.
Okay.
There's got to be another day.
Okay.
So that doesn't. But that can't happen.
That gets to all of us when we get over 60. I'm not going to
there's
put
a-
myself through
there's
getting
a-
my hands raw.
There's a
and-
better day to do this.
Sure.
Like the guy that turned the boat around. But so you were going out for halibut for that.
Yeah. Commercial.
Commercial. So is that on the long line, or what do they call them? The not a trout line. but
Long line. Trot
Long line.
Like a trot line.
It got several hooks.
Right.
Boom. I got to do that with a neighbor of the boys' cottages. He's a Native American up there.
Oh,
or
so
half
he
Native.
can do subsistence. Yeah.
He could do subsistence, and I went out on his boat, which I heard you have a custom made. Like, does everybody have a custom made boat in Alaska? That kind of the thing?
No.
No, they go off the shelf
The
sometimes.
newbies are going out with friends that do have.
Okay, because he had like a drop front gate on it. You could
Oh,
You can-
landing craft. Yeah.
like a landing
Yeah,
craft,
uh-huh.
and we did the halibut that day. One day we went out with him to go check the line.
Down there, they can do 20 hooks per person.
And it was exciting. It was, I mean, we probably only got about 6 or 7, but there's times when it's a lot more than that. And then the cleaning is the rest of the day. But it's fun, but like it's got to be calm. It's got to be. Now his boat, obviously,
Well, if it's got to be calm and you're in Alaska, you're not going to fish a lot of days.
exactly. I fish about 2 out of the 7 I'm there, unless we stay up in the fjords and we go up to the. We go
Here's the good part about all this. We're in the day and age where you can actually kind of sort of count on the weather report 80% of the time.
kind of, sort of, sure.
Because when I was first up in Alaska and fishing commercial halibut, you'd use the weather forecast as an opposite. If it said it was going to be good, it's going to blow.
Right.
It said it's going to blow, oh, it might be,
Might be a
being good.
might be- So you were out there in the rubber suit all day, all night. Did you live out on the water doing that?
Oh, no.
Just
I didn't have to lift a finger. They do all the work.
Oh,
When I walk aboard their boat and they're catching and they're taking part of the catch.
right. And you're buying that catch from them.
No, they just take a percentage, and it's
okay.
50-50.
Gotcha.
Because he's providing the boat, the workers, and yeah. And I'm not as young or spry as I used to be.
Yeah, that's a young man's thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the duck hunting like? I have one duck hunting experience in Alaska, and it was on the Kenai Peninsula.
Where at?
What's the inlet between Anchorage and Kenai? The big body of
Cook
water.
Inlet.
Cook Inlet, okay.
Turnagun arm goes up the arm. You got to drive around that.
Right. That's how we got back. We went around the arm. But when we were there was some river flat. We were up literally in a mountain cabin. It was about a 3-hour ride up this Forest Service trail to a Forest Service cabin that had claw marks up and down the doors, which I'm not real familiar with. I'm not a real.
And you were hunting on a lake?
And we went down the road and then climbed down the mountain and got to a river flat. And we just waylaid the ducks. I'll show you pictures when we're done. It was.
But you can't remember any of the names.
If you had the name of the river that,
Well, I can tell you the names of all the rivers.
give me a couple of them that would come right out of.
The Kasilof River. But if you got mountains, it would be more up toward Cooper Landing. Not the Cooper River.
No, it doesn't ring a bell.
Not the Russian River.
No, I know that one. It was kind of a funny name that's why I can't remember it. If it was Russian River, I'd remember it.
Did you go to Hope and go from Hope in?
I don't remember.
Because that would have been out of the way.
Well, this was.
Of course, you got the Kenai River, got the Kasilof River, you got the Anchor River, you got Deep Creek, you got the Nilchik River, all the way down to Homer.
Okay, we weren't out by Homer. We were back. Oh gosh.
Had to have been either something up Tustamina Lake that flows, the Kasilof River flows out of. Had to be something in there because they've got a little bit of mountains there.
That must have been.
Or Cooper Landing because that's the only mountains
Maybe
on our
it was.
side.
Maybe it was. But anyway, we waylaid the ducks. It was unbelievable. It was a terrible walk back down. It was a terribler walk back up. And what I've come to realize every time I go on an adventure in Alaska, you people are nuts. You like adversity and pain.
You got to remember something. Here's an equation. You should have it printed on a hat or a T-shirt. And this is for Alaska. The harder it is for you to get in, the harder it is for everybody else. We have to take a bunch of equipment and a bunch of work to get across the inlet from Kenai to the west side to hunt ducks.
Yeah.
You know how many mornings on opening morning, when we used to wear watches, I'm looking, is my watch, is this the right day? Did we get the right day? Because you don't hear another shot.
Right.
Now that's something to work for.
Right.
Versus the Muskegon Marsh,
Oh,
where you get into your blind at 3:30 in the morning that you built, and someone's sitting in your blind, and he goes, "Hey, it's a free country, but I built that blind. It doesn't matter.
I'm here first.
I'm here first."
Oh, I started hunting the Muskegon Flats. That was something, though. It was a wood duck factory, and I took a nephew of mine out there that had literally no experience other than a little target practice, and he got his limited ducks. I mean, there was so many ducks out there back. But to your point, that the trip these guys took me on, I didn't see any other hunters.
Oh yeah,
You know,
sure, because it's hard for you to get in,
it's very hard to get in.
or you got to have equipment.
Or I guess you could maybe have a helicopter take you.
No, that's illegal.
That's illegal.
Can't do that.
Can't do that on the same day, or you just can't do it.
Can't do it in the same day. Well, now they got it on helicopter. You can't do it at all. But most of it's fixed wing, and you can't fly the same day.
Right, and there was no place to land out here on these flats. Well,
Sure.
Although I've seen videos of pilots landing on less, but anyway, I've been there probably 15 times, and every time it kicks my ass. And every time I say, I'm not going back.
Well, you're not getting any younger.
And I may not even be, the next time I go, it might just be sit and read.
Yeah.
And help the guys when they come back.
This is our second day of opener on the Kenai Flats.
That looks like,
35 birds
that's nice.
in the morning.
Yeah.
We had a lot of kids shooting.
I see that.
A lot of missing.
There was a lot of Pittman Robertson dollars going out there. every shell's a,
We never lost a bird with honey.
you and the Brittany luck. I don't mean Brittany luck. I mean
She was hard to get to swim and pick up a bird. I mean, last year.
unlike the first Brittany.
Last year, her first feathers in her mouth was across the inlet. I mean, she knew how to retrieve fantastically, but no feathers in the mouth. And I couldn't get her to even wade in water and have her pick up a bird.
Holy crap!
She would go behind the plant and growl at the bird floating by 3 feet away.
She didn't want to go out and get it.
Scared, I guess. And so we got her more familiar with water, of course.
Threw her in off the boat while you were halibut fishing.
No, not Brittany's. Labs you can do that with, not Brittany's. And so what happens is when she forgets herself and she's so birdie, she's only thinking about birds, then she's willing to do more stuff, of course. And so, I mean, right up till the second hunt this year, I mean, she would swim across and go get birds on the other side, but to swim with a bird in her mouth, she didn't want to do it.
Really?
And current scared her.
But she's getting better like every time.
Well, this last trip, we got.
Yeah.
We
You want
got.
to grab that? We can put it on pause.
Yeah. Ruin your trucks. That's a good way of ruining your trucks. Hence, it's got to get towed out.
So now that, all right, we're back on recording, and Pat's like, well, that looks like Tickaloon Road.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It took us almost 3 hours to get to that
Sure.
cabin.
Yep.
because we just crawled over
Yeah,
this road.
yeah.
I could count on my hand how many. Well, the beginning of the road off the hard top wasn't bad,
Right,
of course.
sure.
But once you got going past this huge burn, it was a huge forest fire. Once we got past that forest fire, that road.
Did you go through a spot where you didn't know if you were going to bury the vehicle in water?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
2 to 3 feet of water.
Right.
Getting through in a
To
vehicle.
get on what should have been a road.
Right. You just hope you're on the two tracks.
Right.
Because if you get off of it, you are going to go swimming.
Every time we'd hit a hunk of road that looked like this, I was like, how do you know? And
That
he's
there's
like,
not a sinkhole. Right. Sure.
Right. And we just kept going and going and going. And then sometimes the road would look like that, and then
Right.
we'd see spruce hens.
Right.
So when I'd see that road, I felt like I could breathe again. But but to these guys up in Alaska, this is what they do for fun.
No, these are young guys usually.
They are young.
Yeah,
Yeah.
usually, and they're usually stupid.
Okay, well,
I mean, there's a fine line between bravery and stupidity.
Stupidity.
And when you get older, you see a lot more stupidity than bravery.
on the way out, when we got to that good part of the road, that's when
Yeah.
his fuel pump quit.
Oh, geez, yeah.
And guess what? We have no signal. There's no cell signal.
Yeah.
But through one of those Garmin InReach thingies,
Oh, you didn't reach. Well, at least he was smart enough to have that.
got a message through to somebody, got a message through to somebody,
Yeah.
and got a ride out of there. It was already dark.
Whose cabin was that, by the way?
Forest Service
I
cabin.
was just ready to say, there's nobody that owns a cabin back there other than Forest Service.
Right. There's a Forest Service
Yeah,
cabin
okay.
we had to have reserved.
I didn't even know there was a Forest Service cabin back there.
Yep, it's almost all the way to the end of, what'd you call that road?
Chickaloon.
Chickaloon.
Well, Chickaloon Flats is what it is.
Chickaloon Flats.
Okay,
That's-
Chickaloon is a fantastic, almost estuary. It's one of those stopovers before the geese and the ducks hold over in because the pass, the Turnagain Arm Pass, is closed.
Right.
With bad weather.
Yeah.
And if it's closed long enough, Chickaloon gets really good because all these birds coming out of the north
they gotta have a place.
stockpile.
Yeah.
They get stopped there.
Yeah.
And they all build up. And then the first clear night, they all leave at once.
They're gone.
Yeah, they're gone.
So we got lucky.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was stocked up, but there was a lot of ducks.
Well, the geese primarily are affected by this holdover, stopover thing.
Gotcha.
The ducks, they kind of come and go a little bit more.
Yeah.
I wanted to go there this year, but I wanted to take my boat. And I couldn't get anybody to go with me. I can't pilot that 32-footer by myself. I got to have one other person.
So obviously the way we got there was not the prescribed way to get to Chickaloon
Well, that's why
Flats.
most everybody that gets there gets there. It's just a horrible road.
It's more than horrible.
Yeah, I know.
We'd have been
It's
better
long
off-
and it's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we were stopping to shoot grouse, but we were going very slow on those water-filled ruts.
Sure.
And it was a 3-hour drive from when we left the
Sure.
hardtop to the time
That's if
we-
you don't hardly stop. It's 3 hours.
Yeah, other than stopping to shoot a bird.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I kept thinking, I thought we were going duck hunting.
You know,
we did.
You know what I really think it is, a lot of it? Because it's young guys usually that do it. It's an ego thing. It's we got through it and we shot birds thing.
So let's do it again.
Yeah.
Oh, and then let's take this visitor and show
Oh, well, that's another part of the ego thing.
him. Let's take a visitor
Sure.
and show him
Show
something.
them how tough everybody is. Yeah. No, I got a friend that.
Oh, and by the way, Ken and guys, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry I'm throwing you under the bus. Greatest host I've ever had, but that was the scariest trip anybody ever put me on.
Well, I've got friends that take ATVs on the beach. You got to time your tides right. To do that one though. That one's doable, and if you got a decent ATV and you're taking two, so if one has a problem, that's a good way to go.
And the problem means it's going to be underwater when you come back.
Well,
Could be.
no, you just got another vehicle to tow you.
Oh,
to
so
get you
you
home.
tow.
If someone.
So you turn around and go home.
Sure.
If you're smart.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was where.
But yeah, here, let me show you. You
Yeah.
can't zero in.
No, I can't zero in on that map.
Okay, get rid of that.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I pull this toward me?
Oh
a
yeah,
little bit?
yeah.
Okay. here is Chickaloon Flats, right in here.
That makes sense.
So your Mystery Creek Road is in here and
Okay.
winding its way, and then.
And that makes sense because he said we could see the lights of Anchorage.
Okay. Yep.
And but I was thinking that was in my
Yeah,
imagination.
see, when you're along this road, if
Right.
you got one of those pull-offs, you can see this area.
Right.
in
And when
here.
we came back on that road, we saw geese up the wazoo over here.
Okay.
On that side, driving back. We even thought about getting out and,
Yeah.
and swatting one or two,
Yeah.
but we didn't. But
Did you get any geese when you were in there?
I think one goose.
Okay.
One guy. There was a guy who decided they saw goose and heard goose
Yeah.
and geese, and they started trying to put a sneak on them. It doesn't work really well, but they ended up knocking. I guess got ducks, and we had a guy's German wire hair there, and he was remarkable. He just. But there was ducks coming in while the dog was coming back with ducks. You know what I'm saying? These ducks have never seen.
Sure.
So the ducks are landing by the dog, and the dog's like, "Hey, let me bring this one back."
I'll pack that one back too at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool.
That's what I got to teach Honey now. Is I got to teach her to go for the farthest bird, and avoid birds that are dead, because we gang shoot so much now. I've got my friend, and he's got 7 kids, 4 boys that are shooting with us. So it's often we're shooting 5 and 6 guns.
Right.
So I mean, the last group of teal that came in on that 35,
Right.
we got 9 birds in one
pass.
volley.
Yeah.
So I got to teach her to go past close birds,
Right.
and get to the ones that are far first.
That's going to take a lot of yard work,
Yep.
you know.
This is how you spell a good dog. WORK.
No, that's how you spell going to Alaska.
That too.
So you typically fly back, but you flew here to come and get a truck, a trailer, and possibly another dog.
Yep.
Is-
Didn't
and-
know about the dog until I was already down there.
Well, I mean, who needs to? It's just a dog, right?
Well,
Once you have one, you can
I
have.
want a lab, because as good as Honey is, when you've got multiple birds down, I need another dog
Yeah.
for getting grips.
So when obviously, this is a lot better part of Alaska to live in for winter than
Fairbanks.
Fairbanks, right? But this gets pretty much closed down and froze out. I mean, the water, the salt
yeah.
water doesn't, but everything else
Saltwater
gets,
freezes.
Salt water freezes?
Yeah.
I thought they told me they didn't.
Well, it's a yes and a no on that, because see, the fresh water is still pouring in, not as much as in the summer, but it's still
Okay.
pouring in. It tends to go on top of the salt water. Salt water is denser,
Yeah.
kind of like oil and water.
Right.
And so, yes, it is a mixture of fresh water that's freezing with salt water, but you still, when you get cold temperatures, oh yeah, you got lots of ice in Cook Inlet.
Like you can't get to it, through it, kind of ice.
Bergs that are as big as this house.
Wow. So duck hunting's shot then, and they're gone.
No, they're still duck hunting out of Homer, because it's
Really?
that much.
Homer's
it's
down
that much
down there.
warmer
Wow.
in Homer compared to Soldotna, and it's not only 70 miles away.
Right. So you, I'm trying. When do you, like? It's hard to imagine you sell seafood, and then you go hunting and you drive. Like, is it your full-time job, or do you have another full-time job?
Well, I used to guide for 39 years for salmon and halibut.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, see, when I got everything from Randy, it was just, oh, he has a food truck. He runs around and sells seafood. So you guided out there
Yeah, that's why I went to Alaska.
to guide.
Guide for salmon and halibut.
Really?
Follow my brothers up.
Wow.
That was started in 79.
So that's
We were the 3rd or 4th guide permitted on the Kenai River.
really.
When in the heyday it was 770 guides.
Wow. That's gotta like almost break your heart. I don't mean break your heart,
kind
but
of-
it's like seeing a shopping center get built behind your house.
You want to get something mismanaged, call Fish and Game in. They'll do a great job.
Of issuing too many permits for too many people.
There's an old guy that puts these sayings, these wise sayings, on a Spenard Builders sign. It's a lumber yard, and no one messes with them, even though they're politically kind of generated signs sometimes.
Right.
They don't mess with him because he's so old. He's 90 years old.
Right.
And he comes up with these nice sayings. And one of them that I'll never forget is, we've discovered how to eradicate the Alaskan mosquito. We're going to let Fish and Game manage them.
Well,
Fish and Game, if they were in the private industry, would have went out of business decades ago. And it's probably not, I'm sure it's not just Alaska that can say that.
I'm, you know.
And the reason is because they're not in competition with themselves. They can almost get promoted by doing the wrong thing every time. I've watched it.
Wow.
Now, occasionally they get things kind of sort of right.
Yeah.
I think they got the shrimp fishery in Prince William Sound almost perfect. They took an area this big, Prince William Sound's pretty good size, and they busted it up into 3 different areas. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And each year, the small group of commercial boats that commercially fish shrimp get to predate on one of those zones. So the zone gets the rest 2 years before the commercials come back around.
That makes sense.
Makes perfect sense.
Right.
Right now, the sport people take more shrimp than the commercials do, which is very rare. I mean,
that's
that
opposite.
never happens in normal commercial fishing in Alaska.
Right.
Commercial guys are taking 93, 94, 95, 96% of all the fish that return. The sport fishermen are getting 3 or 4%.
Right.
And the commercials are coming into the Board of Fish and going, we are starved for fish. We can't believe that you let these sport people do this. It sounds bad.
3 to 5%.
It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? They get their way because they're so powerful.
Wow.
Fish means politics and money and power.
Over game rules.
Yeah.
The fishing is the king.
But
it's like oil in
they'll
Texas.
tell you, oh no, we're doing this, for the preservation of the fish, and put the right face on it.
Right.
But in reality, fish are power, politics, and money.
Wow.
Plain
Who'd
and
have
simple.
thought? Who'd have thought? So you ran a guide service.
I was with my brother Jim and Don.
Now, was that all commercial, or did you take us tourists out?
Well, it's all tourists.
All tourists.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, nothing to do with commercial.
Okay, so you just would take Ron and Bob and Bill, come up from wherever,
Yep.
and you take them out for halibut.
I was doing 700 people a summer just for myself.
There's a little lodge where we go, and they probably got maybe 7, 8 teenagers. I say teenagers, I don't know how old they are, 20-something. And they work there in the summertime, and their job is just helping people on and off the boat, taking fish off hooks, and then cleaning fish. And I can't imagine doing that every day. Did you sleep? Or no? Is sleep an option?
When I tell you what I'm about to tell you, you probably won't believe it. But if you desperately hunted and fished when things were happening good during the season, and when you were young, you probably can understand it. 7 days a week, 120 hours a week worth of work, sleeping 2 and 3 hours a night in order to be able to do all.
Get up and do it again.
Yeah, 2 and 3 charters a day.
Kind of like the duck hunt guides, but the work's not that hard.
And we're not doing it year round.
Right.
It was.
You're
back
making
then,
hay while the sun shines.
Yes,
Right.
that was June, July, and about
A piece of
through
August.
2/3 of August.
Right.
So it's like
And
less
then
than 3 months.
And then it dries up.
Well, no. Back then, you had good wings of the season. I mean, we were busy May, all of June, all of July, all of August, and most of September.
So, and this is going to turn in from the hunting dog podcast to the fishing dog podcast, because I've got just enough fishing experience there in Kasan Bay and where we go to I know halibut are they move around, right? They kind of move in and move out.
Yeah.
So you got it when you're taking these people fishing, you've got to know the seasonality of where those fish are. Or at some point, are they just everywhere in the ocean?
The fortunate thing is when you're going every day, you know where they're at
Yeah.
because you're there every day.
Right.
That's the good thing about. I mean, now that I'm not chartering anymore, and I just go once in a while, oh, it's way too harder because you don't know what you did yesterday or the day before. So you got to rely on all these different contacts and friends, and okay, are they telling you the truth? And were they there 2 days ago or 3 days ago? And okay, the fish have probably moved since 4 days ago, and you know.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of stress. I don't know.
Oh, I love it. It's why I started shrimping, is because it scratched the itch of trapping. I haven't been able to trap like I used to back here.
Right. Did you
for
do
years.
some trapping in Alaska though?
No, never trapped in Alaska.
Never brought all the traps up from Michigan.
No.
I would imagine it would be wolf and martin.
Quite a bit different, yeah.
Yeah. It wouldn't be. It wouldn't be what you did here.
Yeah.
But the dogs remain constant.
Oh yeah. Now that my lovely wife of 20 years has decided to leave the family and find someone better, supposedly, I have more time and more money.
It's really.
Yeah.
So you're going to go back into the guiding business? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm going back into the bird hunting business.
Going into bird hunting business, which goes back to the lap. No. What about Upland? I know there's ptarmigan in a lot of spots of Alaska. I've actually seen a couple. Have you done that?
I've done a little bit of ptarmigan hunting. They taste horrible, so I'm not going.
I've been told that
I'm
by
not going
Danny.
after them.
Right.
I want to get into the sharptails up there.
Okay.
More towards Fairbanks,
Right.
which is a little ways away from where we're at.
Right.
I wanted to get there.
It's a lot of ways from where you're.
Yeah, I wanted to get there this fall, but just had too many things going on. Because I hear of some good areas for bird hunting sharptails.
Sharptails.
And they're not near as flighty as on these cotton picking partridge that I grew up on.
Right.
I mean, it was like hunting deer when I was a kid for partridge.
Oh,
I mean, you rarely saw them. You only heard them, and
Right.
then you shot in the direction you heard the thunder.
And you hope you
and
saw
hope
one.
you hope you get them.
And you hope you saw one on the road on the way in.
Oh, well, we never shot them on the road, but going and hunting partridge, we get woodcock. That was the ones that we could actually see and shoot.
Yeah.
And get. And,
Made you feel like you're out there for
Yeah,
a
yeah,
reason.
yeah.
What about big game hunting up there? Did you do any?
Yeah, I've shot the moose, of course. A few caribou. My longest shot I ever shot was at a pretty good size bull caribou. Got him. First shot, 390 yards.
Oof,
Yeah.
that's a poke.
Got him on the first, just went straight down. And so I got 3 other shells left. And there's 2 other caribou. Well, I'll just get the other 2 because it was 5. Limit was 5.
See, the limit was 2 when I went.
Oh,
for
this area
non-resident.
was 5.
Right.
And so, level off on the next one. Empty my gun, never touch another caribou.
Sounds like you got lucky on the first shot.
No, I just had a really good rast. On
And
the
then
first
after
one.
that, it was like,
No, then I was on my knees because I wanted to see if we got that first one.
Right.
And then it was freehand holding.
yeah.
And yeah, I never
Didn't
touched
work
one.
out well.
No.
How about grizzly bears? Because I can tell you that I'm afraid to death of them, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of
Well,
them.
that's not a bad thing.
I
They're unpredictable.
we were dragging canoes up a river. We were way up by the north slope, just north of the slope, and there was a mom and 2 cubs, but the cubs were like 2-year-old cubs.
Yeah.
So they were big. They were bigger than me. And I kept seeing them. We're dragging the canoes up this ribbony river back and forth, and we could see them. And I asked Danny. I said, "Danny, shouldn't we, get a gun on them?" He goes, "No, they'll get out of here." And we finally got basically across the little river from them bears, and they were mowing in the willows and digging up stuff. And I said, "Shouldn't we just either keep going or get a gun on?" He goes, "No, they'll be fine." He says, he gets his camera out and he says, "Make some noise." And the 3 of them stood up and looked at us, and I couldn't move.
How far away?
Oh, I don't know, from here to my house.
Oh, not too far. Yeah.
No, they could cover that ground easily, but they decided to go the other way.
99% of the time, that's what
And
they do.
we saw their rumps going over
Sure.
the tundra, which gave me a little bit of confidence. Until one of the guys shot a caribou and he said, "There's a bear hanging around. I need you to come back with me and just stand guard
Sure.
in case it comes back."
Sure.
I'm like, "I'm not your guy. I'm not your guy." He says, "Ron, I need you to," and I was like Barney Fife looking for his bullet in his pocket. If a bear would have showed up and if he would have said, it's time, I would have never. I wouldn't hit that thing if it was standing in a phone booth with me. I was scared to death.
I shot 3 caribou in just outside of Kotzebue and flown in with a 185 on Tundra tires. And George, my old friend George, which was my dad's friend, he's like in his late 70s. Man, great physical shape for being a habitual smoker and
Kinda like me.
and being that old.
Yeah.
He had great leg strength. Anyways, he's helping me butcher the next day, and I let him go to the farthest one, and I'm doing the other 2, and it's out in this field, and I get over to him. I know he comes over to me, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to take this load of meat back into camp. It's about a 2-mile walk. Get back there," and I come back, and I look at where he's working, and he says, "Yeah, why did you do this? I had to uncover this caribou when I first got here. Why did you bury it?"
Why did you bury it?
And he's been working on this caribou for 2 or 3 hours and not bringing his head up at all.
Just working.
Just working. Totally oblivious to the reality of a brown bear
That stashed that thing away.
buried that. And he's
will be back.
probably either watching or he's just going to come back.
He's just, he hasn't come back yet.
Right. And I just got lucky, I guess. Because, they are ornery little critters at times, and other times, they're trying to avoid you most of the time.
And then the people are fishing along the rivers, and the bears walk by, and everyone thinks it's cool.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that either.
We had a guy that made he made tons of money off of a book and off of, I think, a podcast. Forget his name. I can't remember his name, but he was very famous. He was on all the big talk shows.
Yeah.
That people didn't understand brown bears. That they really wanted to live in harmony with humans.
Oh, is this the guy that got it?
This is the guy that got it.
Oh, I heard about him.
And so the sad part is he took a very innocent girlfriend with him in there to the Katmai National Park. Had no weapon, which you can't take a weapon in there.
Right.
And didn't bother bringing in bear spray,
right.
which you can take in.
Right.
Because he's so confident about himself, I mean, he does the camera cast with the brown bear feeding from here to those dogs in the back of them, and the camera's on him, and he's faced away, and they're just grazing on the grass. And he's explaining how they're all misunderstood.
Oh, God.
Until the wrong bear decides to eat his girlfriend for dinner. And there's footage about that. The camera was rolling.
Never seen it.
You're not going to see most of it. You're going to hear most of it.
Wow.
As the brown bear ate his girlfriend.
Oh.
And then killed him.
See, I don't know that guy's name either, but I've heard people talk about
remember.
the guy who thought.
Oh, yeah, he's so stupid.
It was like the lady who loved the lions in Africa.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, they're a pride, and I'm part of their pride.
Until you're not. Right. That's why the unpredictability factor comes in.
How long is it going to take you to get back to home?
Depends on how much I drive. If you drive most of the time.
4,000 miles from here to Anchorage.
Yeah, 39.50. But if you drive, you only sleep about 5 or 6 hours a night, 5 days.
5 days.
Yeah. A little slower if you stop somewhere, 7 days.
And you're going to do this solo? There's no one with you?
I've done it 26 times.
20? That's
3 in the winter. The last time I did it in the winter,
Well,
I was kind of like George doing that caribou. I didn't know what kind of trouble I was in.
Yeah, that wasn't.
I didn't have any other extra source of heat. And going through in February, and I hit, where was it? Teslin. I'm getting fuel, I think, in Teslin, and super cold out. Of course, they don't tell you in Canada on signs for how cold it is.
They just know it's cold.
I know it's cold because I can hardly sleep at night, even with 2 Labrador retrievers inside my sleeping bag and the truck still running.
And
I still couldn't sleep because it was too cold. So I just kept driving. And I fill up there, and this guy comes out in slippers. And he says, "Oh, I'll fill it up. I'll fill it up." I go, "Oh, I thought it was self-serve." And he goes, "Well, when it's this cold, people break off the nozzles of the pump and
He'll
the
do it.
tank.
Yeah.
I'll do it." And his old dog, mangy dog, comes out with him. And I said, "How cold is it?" He says, "Oh, it's 82 below." And after 50 below, you can't tell a whole lot difference. I mean, other than the engine exhaust plume, oh, that's the big difference.
Right.
You go by a semi, you got to pull over for 30 seconds because of the heat plume, the exhaust, like a space shuttle taking off.
Right.
Because it's white out. Anyways, he says, "No, it's not that cold." I always remember this joke he tells me. He says, "Oh, Spike here. When Spike takes a leak upside the signpost and it jacks him off the ground, then it's cold."
How many trips back and forth now?
26. This will be 27.
27th trip driving from basically the Midwest, sometimes South
Michigan,
Dakota.
Michigan, always Michigan.
And then you go, and then do you have a doctor on staff, like, to check your,
You know,
that sounds insane.
you know, if you drive it enough and you don't drive it the next year, you almost miss it. Because you know right where everything is at and know where you want to make the
Oh my
stops.
God, though. And then going through Canada, that's its own chore on time.
Yeah, I gotta call Canada Border and see what's required now. What can't you take? I know there's a limit on rounds. Of,
Yeah. Well, you can pay duty on them. Either that, or you have receipts and you can pay the duty on it. I know that.
duty, or is it you got to get a special waiver?
I don't.
We had to get waivers before in the old times.
Well, I went through one time with too much ammunition going duck hunting up there.
Okay.
And I had those electrician's drawers, like a tool drawer, and I had all my shotgun shells in there, from dog training to grouse hunting to pheasant hunting, and all my waterfowl loads. And I was way over what I think they allowed you to bring 200 rounds through.
That was all?
That was all, which is, that's a fair amount of
I
shotgun
heard it was
shells.
1,200.
No, well, this was 200, and I was somewhere around 800. We had to ascertain what the cost of those shells were, and I had to pay basically the tax or the duty on those extras. They didn't take them away from me. I just had to pay extra
How many
money.
years ago is this?
Oh, 15.
The duty. Huh. Okay.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so I take it you're bringing some ammunition back?
As much as I can, because they don't even want to send ammo to Alaska.
That's got to be tough. That's going to be tough.
I have to get them over to Washington, or Seattle, get them on a barge, and send them up. That's if they'll even do it, because they got to have special permits to do that.
What about Sportsman's Warehouse in Anchorage? Can't you just, or is it $80 a box?
You know how you spell all those places that have ammo in Alaska? S-U-C-K. They suck.
They suck.
Unless you're going to a specialty shop months in advance to get what you want, because I don't just get ammo off the rack.
Right.
I get the stuff that actually works.
Okay.
I mean, it took years for me to figure out the load for pheasants in South Dakota. I call them the reach out and touch someone loads for December birds. They get up at 40 yards. You identify them at 50. You shoot them at 60 and 70 yards. And you can still put them down.
Yeah, but Boss Ammo wasn't around back then.
No.
That's a plug for my ammunition sponsor.
This was Federal. They don't make this anymore. Federal Premium number 2 copper, 1 7/8 ounce, 3 inch, of course.
You could call it a coyote load, kinda.
It was a goose load back then, but it had buffer in it to keep the shot together. Plastic buffering. There wasn't anything I found, and I even used it in the earlier part of the season, because all I got to do was put an improved cylinder on it.
Right.
In the latter part, I had to put modified on it. But and I had good dogs. I mean, usually you're only hitting them with 2 or 3 pellets.
Right.
But
Breaking
it
a
was
wing.
enough to knock them down, and you got a Johnny on the spot dog, and you got them every time.
Yeah.
Well, you have had a storied past and future. Randy was right. Brittany's that dive, impeccable labs.
Well,
Another Brittany that's gorgeous. I will admit, gorgeous. I mean, I've seen Brittany's that look like pickpockets,
oh yeah, she's gorgeous.
and in a possible future lab, maybe.
Maybe if they ever give me a call back.
And when are you leaving back for Alaska?
When the camper gets put on my truck from my brother.
How long are we talking? Day 2 or a week? Are you that flexible? You're just gonna go?
It happens when it happens, but hopefully in the next 2 or 3 days, he get it done.
Okay. So this is gonna be like a Lance type camper on top of your truck?
It is a Lance.
It is like Randy had. Yeah. Did you see my camper on my
I
truck?
can't believe I got to pay this much for a camper. The last time I bought campers,
Yeah.
a utilitarian one was $500 or $600.
Yeah.
A good one was $1,000.
Right.
I got to pay $11,000 or $12,000 for this.
But this is the one you're
used.
gonna sell seafood out of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's got some extras.
It's
got
so
some
much better than what I got now. It's just,
Right.
it's night and day. I mean, it's like inventing the wheel.
So if I ever go back to Soldotna, am I gonna be able to find you on the corner of the road selling shrimp?
Let me show you.
Yeah. We're doing a phone check now.
See if I can show you.
Maybe you can send me the picture and then I'll put that up as a post.
That's
There we-
me.
All right. I'll find that. I'll find that. Shrimp guys.
With an S. Make sure you put an S on it.
Right.
Shrimp guys.
Shrimp guys.
Yep. That's
And
what that's what people see on the side of the road.
And they come up and
Yep.
so yeah. That's kind of like the boiled peanuts in Florida.
Yep.
In the Carolinas.
But the first 5 years, I used hotels and motels,
Right.
and now I stay in my insulated camper,
Camper.
which now I'll have a whole lot better.
And how many months a year can you do that?
I do it year round.
You can somebody's still out there commercial fishing shrimp that you can get 'em
Most of the year, yeah. And then I can hold it for the little bit of times that they aren't fishing. I stay warm in that in 35, 40 below in Fairbanks.
Jeez. Okay, I'm gonna go back to anybody that lives in Alaska. You gotta check something at the door.
Well, I'll tell you what. Do you know
Which
what
is I'm getting at your sanity.
you know what those little diesel heaters look like?
I want to get one for mine.
It's a game changer. I'm telling you.
I
I
wanna-
used to use propane, so wet
Right.
compared, especially when you get 30, 40 below, and
Everything condenses on the
one
inside.
one of those heaters. It's to the point now. My son knows this because he has those heaters on our boat when
Yeah.
we're shrimping now. It's to the point we've gotten so soft. Our heater goes out, we're going home
See, now there's common sense.
because we're so used to being able to dry stuff out easily,
Right.
And instant heat, and these heaters are just a game changer.
I'm gonna have to figure out which one you have and figure out which one I need.
There's so many of them on Amazon now. The first one I got, it was $1,300.
I've seen some for a lot more though.
Okay, Wabasco, the German company, Wabasco, started these heaters eons ago, and they were $3,500 to $4,000 a piece.
Wow.
Well, our China friends that copy everything so
Right.
well,
Reverse engineered it and said we can make this for
yeah,
$1,500.
and even though it's not the quality, I give you that. Do you know what you can buy them for on Amazon? It's crazy.
No, I'm gonna look it up.
$160 to $200.
No,
Yeah.
Oh,
Complete.
I'm getting one.
Yeah.
I'm getting one when we hang this up.
Yeah. The bad thing about getting it to Alaska is they won't ship them to Alaska anymore. You gotta ship them to somebody like you, and then you put it in the post office.
UPS, and I can
yeah,
mail it to you.
yeah.
Well, Pat, I don't know where else we can go. We have a few. I want to show you my camper and what you think about. I'm sure it's going to overheat this camper, but
Well-
I'm not going to be sad about it.
That is one downside of those heaters. A lot of them you can't turn down low enough. That's true.
Right. But I could always open.
I'd
them
rather
up.
have
But I
that
got
problem.
I got exhaust fans that could take a little heat
I'd
out.
rather
of it.
have that problem than the other problem.
So your dog's out in the car?
Yep.
I want to go get a picture of your dog and a picture of you and the dog. And then I'll put that and a picture of your shrimp guys with an S from Soldotna. That's the right way to say it? Soldotna?
Soldotna, yeah.
I got it. All right, Pat, thanks for coming over. Randy, thanks for introducing us. And we'll talk to you next week.